Apparently, County of Orange versus Mark Kern, category child support, failed to pay it. I mean, if true, that's a sad arc for this weight. I mean, it makes perfect sense. If this is in fact Grummz and his entire character arc comes from at some point after, you know, bankrupting his own gaming company with Sperm Bus, and then he's working on other projects, starts crowdfunding, and then, you know, the crowdfunding evolves, and a handful of years go by, and then out of nowhere he's just becoming Grummz the culture warrior, the one who's like, hey, by the way, we need women to be sex objects and for them to be naked for my pleasure, and I masturbate a lot to Stellar Blade. Here's the costumes I want. They're not making the titty skin. This is what some people might call sad, but I call it, like, where did that come from? Where did we get that, Grummz? This might explain it. This could be yet another case of, you know, listen up, liberal. My wife let me. I'm going to effectively now start my new arc. Who is Grummz? He's kind of exploded on the scene in the past year alone. He is a ex-video game developer. He used to work for Blizzard at a time when apparently breast milk was being stolen from the Blizzard fridges. There's no evidence that he was directly responsible for stealing the breast milk, but several people have accused him of being the breast milk thief. He went from Blizzard to starting his own gaming company, which produced a video game called Firefall, of which he nearly bankrupted the company, spending the money on a sperm bus. Which was a giant bus to I guess promote the game and have local area network parties inside of it. I got a quick little. This is the sperm bus that he spent a bunch of the video. He eventually got dropped by his own company, and then I think that would have been probably the end of the Grummz story had it not been for the lucrative world of the online culture war, which a lot of people have shown themselves to be able to profit off handsomely. The quartering, nerdotic, geeks and gamers, all of those right-wing reactionaries who try to pretend that they're not super hardcore racists and misogynists by selling people the idea that they care about video games and ethics and all that kind of stuff, when really they care if a protagonist in a movie is black or a woman or not white, essentially. If there's anything gay about any part of it, even if there's a side character or a secondary character or an NPC, a non-playable character somewhere in the game that happens to be gay, then the game is woke. And if the game is woke, it's going to go broke, it's bad, it's evil, all that kind of shit. Well, Grummz becomes kind of in the last year superstar because he starts fighting for the game Stellar Blade, the game where you play as a woman, and in that game, he wanted the women to have very skimpy outfits, as in reveal a lot of breast. You already got that in the game. The game came with a lot of very revealing clothing, a lot of sexualized costumes. There was no deficit in how much sexy titties you could see jiggling all over the place. The jiggle physics were top notch, all that shit, but it wasn't enough for Grummz, so he started the free Stellar Blade campaign, which actually caught a lot of traction online, half because of how hilarious and embarrassing it is for, you know, a 56 or 57-year-old man to be choosing this as a cause, really, and then galvanizing a lot of people into also thinking that this was a cause, when really the developers were kind of caught off guard because they were just making the same changes that any development team makes in the course of making their game, from pre-builds, alphas, all that kind of stuff, to the actual commercial release. Some of the costumes did change. There was still a lot of sexy costume releases, so they were a little confused. They were like, you're still going to be able to see a lot of stuff, but okay, so that was Grummz' fight. And he's ever since then been doing culture war shit of a variety of degrees. This is one of the more recent culture war fights.
Hello again, I am Blanty. The Monster community tends to be fairly chill. There's far less drama and festering crappery than you'd find in a lot of other games that have highly active online multiplayer systems. I've spoken about this before, more than a couple of times, and in large part I think it comes down to the fact that we all share a bond as hunters, because it's a purely PvE game. We're literally all on the same side at all times. And I think that
he's talking about a video game called Monster Hunters, not one I played, so I'm not very familiar with the Monster Hunters community, but apparently it's very wholesome, and he's explaining why it's wholesome, specifically because it's an online game where everyone has to fight monsters together, though, as a team. It's not we fight each other, we kill each other, we plunder each other's resources. We all have to work together to defeat the common baddies, which is why the community is a little more wholesome, perhaps.
Leads through into the community vibe. Oh, sure, there's some cockwomples around, but, you know, overall, a pretty good community vibe. And occasionally you'll get a tourist pop by and trying to leverage our beloved game for their own insipid, selfish agendas, as happens a lot these days with basically any and every high-profile game. The grifters and joyless, mouldering wannabes trying to latch on to any popular bandwagon with their sad little paint-by-number rackets in the desperate hope it will keep people paying attention to them for the next 5 minutes so they can imagine a world where their idiocy is, you know, relevant. Well, one such
this reminds me of when the Quartering had a lot of problems with the Magic the Gathering community. Magic the Gathering, I'm not saying it does not have toxic elements. It does. It spawned the Quartering and his entire career, right? So there is toxic elements within the Magic the Gathering community. But a lot of these different gaming communities, whether they're like card games, tabletop games, video games, you name it, a lot of them are very wholesome, lovely, and overwhelmingly welcoming experiences for people of all backgrounds, for men and women and non-binary people, for LGBTQ plus people. A lot of them can be very, very wonderful areas for people to develop and build community and honestly share a common love of a beloved franchise or property or something like that. But then there's the assholes like the Quartering or Grummz who try to infiltrate these communities and start their own shit inside of it, right? Start going after women who are cosplayers, being like, oh, they're all fucking whores. They all want us to fucking simp for them because of their sexy bodies, blah, blah, blah. Attack them. Here's where they are. Or go after the community saying that, like, apparently they're erasing white characters and white classes and stuff like that, where to varying degrees of success, right? Like, I don't know if Grummz really did a good job here.
Prolific culture war grifter just tried it with Monster Hunter Wilds as the hype train screams along, sparks flying off the rails at his Gamescom, and got absolutely bodied by the fandom for sticking his fetid, greasy little nose in where it wasn't wanted.
Nice.
What happened to Capcom? From Monster Hunter Worlds to Monster Hunter Wilds, with an image of the handler from World and Olivia, an NPC and hammer-wielding assist hunter from Wilds that we just found out about out of Gamescom. Now, without any context, you'd be sitting there thinking, what the hell does, what does that mean? What are you asking? You've posted 2
Yeah, so if you're not into video games, or you're not really big into watching pop culture and seeing the communities online talk and discuss these things, you might see a lot of the stuff and wonder, what the fuck are they talking about? When it comes to the things that Grummz gets mad about, like Mary Jane in Spider-Man 2 is ugly. And because she's ugly and not fuckable, it's going to be less inspiring for characters and players to want to rescue her in the missions. Look how much they made her ugly. Look at the pictures of her. She's ugly now. And people, when they see the photos, are like, what the fuck are you talking about? That looks like a video game character. These all look like video game characters. Wait, why? How is this a thing? How is this something worth getting mad about or getting angry about?
Images of 2 unrelated NPCs from 2 related but wholly separate games from the same franchise, and are asking, what happened to Capcom? What does that even mean? Baffling.
Again, yeah, as someone who doesn't play this game, I've got nothing, you know, in terms of, I don't know the lore, the history, the characters, anything. If I saw this and they were like, what the fuck happened? I would have been like, I need more details. Is it the armor? Is that it? Is it the class that the player plays as? Is it man woman? Is this a woman bad?
What's your point? What's the context here? But then you notice it's from sad little blue tick Mark Kern, aka Grummz, who people have only ever paid attention to because once upon a time, a long ass time ago, he worked on World of Warcraft. And when I say once upon a time, I mean like literally 2 decades ago. 20 years was the last time he touched it, but you bet he still clings onto it as the first thing in his bio because nothing, and I mean nothing he has ever tried to do in the game industry ever since in the last 2 decades has even been slightly successful. Nothing. And in his frustration, he now just spends his days screeching into Twitter, imagining up the dumbest hot takes he possibly can, and throwing tantrums about things being woke and stuff. You know, just kind of super cool things successful game developers at 56 years old would do with their day. But with Wilds, he tried to pick a fight he was desperately ill-equipped to have. With the context of who posted it now, and if you've ever been unfortunate enough to be exposed to his grade school level intellect before, now we can make a safe assumption that the issue here is, the problem with Capcom, is probably that he's very upset for Capcom making one of the women in the new game more difficult for Mark to masturbate to than a different character in a different game that he found much easier to masturbate to. Seriously, that's literally what we're talking about here.
Wait, are you serious? That's it? This is the same character, but in this... Grummz! Once again! The gooner of gooners, the final boss of gooning. My word, sir. You are gooning on nightmare mode.
Seriously, that's literally what we're talking about here. The sad little gooner Grummz is very frustrated that not every woman in every video game can be spank bank material for him. Which is only made funnier, and quite frankly sadder at the same time, by the fact that the handler herself, the wankable example Mark used for comparison's sake, faced this exact same criticism from sweaty little incels when World launched. If you go to Nexus mods, you will find piles of old mods that attempted to make the handler cuter, a lot of which I can't even show you because they are so explicitly sexualized her in a way that I not only find it personally creepy, but also YouTube would have a fit if I tried to show it to you. Point is, it's funny to see crusty gooners like Mark lust over young imaginary women like the Handler and dream of the days when women in their games made them hornier than the women in the new game when the Handler herself faced the same criticism to begin with. Even sadder still, there's already been more than one female NPCs from WoW's previous trailers and reveals and such that have had the less grass touchy types out there drooling on their keyboards over because they are so very sexy. There was explicit fan art of Gemma, the blacksmith from WoW, less than 2 hours after her first reveal, and I'm not exaggerating, I literally mean less than 2 hours after she was very first revealed, there was already very explicit fan art doing the rounds out there. And I get it, sure, Gemma is, I'd find it very hard to argue against, very, very hot, ticking all the boxes of, current beauty standards. Then there's Alma, not as obviously sexy perhaps, but she's ticking all the boxes for people who find a quieter, cuter, slightly nerdier thing very hot. The classic sex librarian, I suppose, or the Velma style thing. Or to use the parlance of anime, she's moe as hell, right? Now here comes Olivia, who ticks other boxes, or other people boxes, for people who like to say the word mummy a lot, I imagine. And frankly, personally speaking, even though my personal aesthetic tastes for what I consider hot don't generally lie in, or as strongly in the more butch femme side of things, Olivia is quite hot. And that's the funniest part here, because people like Mark Kern constantly whine and complain about how these days women presented in video games aren't made to cater to their horny little fantasies as much anymore. But Capcom, very carefully and very, very deliberately, keep making sure that many tastes are catered for in the Monster Hunter games. There are so many deliberately attractive NPCs in these games. And when we're talking about games that are filled with extremely rugged people who fight gigantic monsters and dinosaurs, for a living, nobody should be that pretty in this world. They should all be beat to heck. But they're made to be pretty. And like many anime, they tend to be built around certain archetypes to make sure as many players as possible can find their waifu or husbando to have goofy little conversations about online. That's part of the fun. Nobody takes it that seriously. It's just fun. And Monster Hunter, of course, continues to be perfectly happy to lean into silly, impractical, sexy armor choices. Lots of fishnetting and boob windows and thigh gaps and corsets and gowns, and the actual players who play the game love that stuff. Monster Hunter has been and is and will continue to be unapologetically this way, culturally this way. It's part of its bones. And it walks the line wonderfully, in my opinion, between sexy, titillating, aesthetic pandering without also being completely grossly exploitative about it that, makes you feel creepy and weird. You know what I mean? But these losers like Mark will whine whenever a video game woman so much as has a square jawline, claiming it's too masculine. She's been masculinized because she has a square jawline. Hi, Sigourney Weaver, Olivia Wilde. You think that those girls are masculine? Because I don't. I think they're freaking smoke shows. It is so sad, man. These people have clearly had their whole brains rotted away. They're leaking out of all their orifices. They've convinced themselves that every woman everywhere, real or fictional, doesn't get...
Who's erasing boobs in anime video games? No one. No one. That's always been the thing with Grummz, that I've always been like, this is so profoundly strange, that people complaining that video game characters apparently are less hot now, or some of the video game characters are not to the aesthetic of their liking, even when there's a plethora of other video game characters in the same video game that are like traditional ideals of beauty and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. It's never enough. It's always just like one character, and most of the time it's the character that they find that happens to not be white, by the way. I mean, that should also be pointed out. But like a lot of times it's just Grummz. Like, what are you complaining about? There is a surplus of attractive people in movies, television, video games, everywhere, entertainment, media, you name it. Just like your cup runneth over. And if you don't like it, if for whatever reason you can't jerk off to Monster Hunter, I don't even know what the current version is, but if that's not to your life, there's pornography. I know. There's an entire world out there on the internet of naked people. You can even get pornography of the very characters you seem to obsess with, because people make it. They will make homemade pornography of those characters. You can go enjoy that. You can then leave the community and the people who enjoy the game to play the game alone. They can go enjoy the game. You can enjoy the Goon Cave, and then the world can be at peace again, right?
to exist or respected as a person.
What if you want to goon while playing the game? That's what double monitors are for. You can have the game in one and you can be gooning in the other, and I don't know. Find whatever works for you. I'm not here to kink shame.
Unless they're hot enough for them to get a boner over. How do they not see how weird that is? It's so creepy, man. There's something broken inside them when it comes to how they see women. It's repugnant. And it's not even enough to...
But yeah, and that's where it goes down to that they're just seen as one thing in society by the right. That's the problem. That's like, I know it gets silly up to a point where it's just like, this is so ridiculous. Grummz is complaining about the loss of 20% of the cleavage skin on an alternative costume in a video game that still has costumes that are basically, you can play the character naked. But that's not enough for him. This one costume lost 20% of its cleavage, so that's all my cause. But what it really comes down to is ultimately it's about them controlling women and then not being able to control women in all aspects. That's the reason why the same people will hate so much on real women who have Twitch streams where they show off their bodies, where they have boobies, where they have cleavage, where they go in hot tubs, where they ride on bananas, and where they write down people's names on their bodies, all that kind of shit. That is terrible. That's degrading. That's a danger to children. That's them trying to recruit into OnlyFans. That's them being whores. We have to condemn this behavior, because in that situation, they can't control the women who are, yes, making money off their sexiness. That to them, oh shit, no, that's bad. I want like a kind of a doll, if you will, that I can have sex with and that I can control and do whatever I want. That's what I want ultimately women to be. And we're going to get to why Grummz might feel this way, because there might be a little bit more to the story than meets the eye.
That weird and creepy, but they have to be out there telling on themselves so loudly where everyone can see. Look at me, I wank over video game characters so much it publicly upsets me when I can't do that to one character.
It's true. Now we have to get into the finances of Grummz a little bit. So McDizzle Gaming has put together the deepest dive into the financial deception of Grummz. Please watch and share.
We got a wild McDizzle Gaming exclusive today. There's a common misconception Mark Kern, aka Grummz, is developing a game. That is not the case. All he is doing is trying to develop a vertical slice demo in order to launch a larger Kickstarter. Somewhere between 300,000 and at least 500,000 of crowdfunding and a lot of lost hope over an 8+ year period. Not even for a game, for a mock-up demo to be used as a Kickstarter in order to finance the rest of the game. This is in the same territory as the day before, and it's worse in my opinion. The difference being, the day before just took their money from some investors. They didn't take it from any common people, until they sold the game, of course. And at least anyone that bought the day before could get a refund on Steam. Grummz, on the other hand, took all the money from the people, setting the expectation that this mock-up will be done sometime in early 2019. He had all the funding that was needed to meet that goal, right? Actually, he had way more than enough, and we're going to talk about that. In today's video, we're going to talk about why the catastrophic crowdfunded project known as Ember is a huge scam. After you check out this video, I'd love to know your thoughts. Ember being the spiritual successor to a game that him and his team already made. Misleading people and overall being a menace is a scam. 2 months later, he did another round of fundraising, this time asking for 5K, and this was to create a milestone for fully textured models, a vision book, and they got 20K. We also started seeing promises for things that will be in the final version of this game that will totally not exist. The next one came in June of 2017, after they made a vision book and some 3D models. This is where the scam really becomes apparent. We're now the third milestone, which is set up looking for $20,000. He gets over $107,000. And he mentions if they can hit the goal of $60,000, that will fund the entire playable mock-up. The playable mock-up is the vertical slice demo that they want to use for a much larger funding project through a Kickstarter. That is going to become pretty relevant soon. He does a really great job of raising money, even in his language. Hey, this thing is now unlocked because you met this funding goal. Nothing was unlocked, he's just using gamification to try to motivate people. You know, to get them to unlock the next thing. Gamers love that stuff. And for a guy that thinks he's saving video games, he certainly likes his microtransactions. From all sorts of skins to packages ranging from $15 here to like $1,500. I signed up for his website because it told me I can get a free skin, so let's go check out this free skin here. Where is it? Right up here? Right on, let's go. Where's this free skin? Oh, here it is. It's a picture. It's not a skin. It's not anything you can use in the game. And you'll see this as a very common thing people are upset about. Mark is releasing all...
I was supposed to work for Ember, actually? Do you have any insider stories about Grummz?
All these skins with the intention of being, oh, you'll get these if they're in the game. There won't be a game. You're making theoretically a lot more work for yourself that doesn't exist and won't happen. Games like Star Citizen sell the stuff, except you can use things in the game. If you buy a spaceship, you can fly that spaceship. This is just a waifu art. He continues to sell those expensive packs, as well as what amounts to pretty much NFTs. Just selling random pictures of stuff that will never be in the mock-up or the game. Now it's going to be a 100-player
A lot of them look like they were done with AI, too.
multiplayer game after originally going to be a single-player game, apparently. Sometime before May of 2019, Mark has a Patreon set up for the game. Well, I should correct myself. It's not for a game. It's for a vertical slice demo to do a Kickstarter to get that one last big score. Now, we do not have exact numbers for how many people are in his Patreon. However, we have seen the number 900 quoted, and that would make sense. Of course, that number's not going to be exactly 900. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it could be lower, it could be higher. But let's use it as a baseline to crunch some numbers. At 900 Patreon subscribers, at $7.95 a subscriber, that's $85,860 a year. You times that by 5 years, that's
the first thing you see when you go to the website. Free skin as a welcome gift. We were offering a free skin for everybody who signs up for a free Ember account. What do we have here? Magic Space Viking Warrior Woman. That's just sounds kind of generic. Okay. Who doesn't want to ride with Odin to battle frost giants and such? I obviously want to, and I can only assume you do too. Grummz! Fucking horny bastard. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for a free account and get this epic skin. All existing accounts will receive the skin as well. No need to sign up for another account to receive it. I have it right now. The JPEG is here. Like, look. Oh, I got it. I got the skin. I didn't have to sign up. I'm cheating. I Grummz the system. Look at that. I got it. I got the skin. I did it. I got a free copy. I stole that right from Grummz.
$429,300. Gotta get paid. Those games don't.
Oh, so when you pass that, you get to this screen. Oh, it's gone. Okay, fair enough. Soon. Oh, wait, no, they're back. Nice. I feel, again, you know, what's that that meme on the internet? Like, disguising the author's barely disguised fetish. Hiding the author's barely disguised fetish. Grummz, just, Jesus Christ. Please, for the love of God, for the safety of the internet, go jerk off. You're bankrupting people. They're giving you their entire bank accounts to make the thing that'll never happen. This is the edging of video games. Just teasing people in perpetuity.
Themselves. Let's say, for argument's sake, it was just half that. That's still over $200,000. Of course, that's spread over the last 5 years. But Mark did confirm that 100% of those funds are meant to go towards the development of this demo. But wasn't that what the $60,000 was for? He also started developing a tabletop game. And from 2021 to 2024, people start getting impatient. Now, Mark told his Discord supporters some health issues, wasn't on social media that much. I can't speak to the health issues, but he was definitely on social media just about as much, and still continued to release pictures of waifus and call them player skins, but you gotta use your imagination for that. In November of 2023, they started to cancel the ability to buy those founders packs. You know, those ones that were like $500, $1,500. Some of them are cheaper, of course, because they don't feel good about selling those packs until the game's available, they say. However, they're going to enhance the Patreon program. So it's not that he feels bad about taking your money, he just wants to take your money on more of a reoccurring basis. And they try to say all these things that they delivered vastly exceed what they originally promised to deliver, except the part of an actual vertical slice existing for a Kickstarter to develop an actual game. People see through it pretty quick. Imagine how bad at this you have to be to have all that money to develop not a game, just a vertical slice demo of a spiritual successor of a game that you and your team have already developed, and you can't get it done. But if that mock-up gets complete, that part of the process is done, and he...
Okay, is there any other revelations? He kept going. If you look at what we promised and what we delivered, it was a playable Thumper Encounter demo to help launch a Kickstarter. We have that now and have for some time. The problem is that it's full of placeholder graphics, placeholder AI, and not very polished or fun yet. This is the first thing we need to improve. That's why we never did the Kickstarter, and also the biggest point of the progress is that that needs to happen. I mean, it sounds effectively Indiegogo, you raised $130,000. Patreon, you raised about $200,000 to $429,000. The NFTs, we don't know. Well, CoffeeZilla could get on that. The Founders Pack, we don't know. So you've raised nearly $500,000, and all you've got to show for it is one drawing of a waifu. The issue is that backers have completely upheld their end of the contract, funding all milestones tenfold over. There's a legitimate case that the vertical slice that's not up to standard, especially with how many we've seen the progress between 2020 and 2024 is nil, but that's tricky to argue. But it comes from the case of other final crowd funds. If it were to fail, then yeah, everyone is right. Shit failed and that's what it is. But what if it doesn't appear? Then that's Mark not upholding his end of the contract. Justify class action and discovery into receipts, which will be speculating, aren't flattering. It's really that cut and dry, despite people's interest in trying to make it a gray zone. No progress at all. Grummz is too busy.
Grummz could clear this up pretty easily, though. And after doing some digging, I think people have every right to call it a scam. In fact, I think it would be pretty disingenuous not to. If you made it this far, thank you so much for...
Okay, so that's all terrible. That's obviously probably a huge, massive scam of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is probably money that could be better spent. Better spent on child support. Yes, we have a new accusation towards Grummz that just got released. Tommy Boy, apparently looking up logs, found that he owed child support. Although this, I have to add, has not been 100% confirmed to be Grummz. Although a lot of people said that it doesn't seem likely that there would be a lot of other people with that exact name in that area where he lives. But yeah, apparently County of Orange versus Mark Kern, category child support, failed to pay it. So that's a potential thing. This is Grummz, by the way, if you're wondering who's the face behind the avatar. Marky Kern Grummz is the director of the Crixa Labs in Orange County. He's a developer for Ember. Child support case is against Marky Kern in Orange County. Other parent is also named. So, I mean, if true, that's a sad arc for this way. I mean, it makes perfect sense. If this is in fact Grummz and his entire character arc comes from at some point after, you know, bankrupting his own gaming company with the sperm bus, and then he's working on other projects, starts crowdfunding, and then, you know, the crowdfunding evolves and a handful of years go by, and then out of nowhere he's just becoming Grummz the culture warrior, the one who's like, hey, by the way, we need women to be sex objects and for them to be naked for my pleasure, and I masturbate a lot to Stellar Blade. Here's the costumes I want. They're not making the titty skin. This is what some people might call sad, but I call it, like, where did that come from? Where did we get that, Grummz? This might explain it. This could be yet another case of, you know, listen up, liberal. My wife let me. I'm going to effectively now start my new arc, which is Evil Grummz. You know, what's the dark arc always called? Either way, sad and if true, pathetic. How in the world do you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop a game that's never happening, but you can't pay child support? That has to be part of the way you manage your expenses, Grummz, in addition to all this, especially if you're going to be, like, you know, a man. No, the one where it's the Metal Gear Solid, you know, when people suddenly start their Metal Gear Solid arc, when they want to put an eye patch and a single scar, and yeah, it'll come to me. I'm not even remembering internet terms right now. But yeah, that would really fucking suck if this was the reason. If it was like he went through a divorce and he had to pay child support, and then all of a sudden, yeah, women are the enemy. You know, women are bad. It's the women's fault, and that's why we need to stop these evil women. Punished era. Thank you. Everyone's trying, and it was gaming that got it. The punished era. Punished era Grummz is maybe where we're headed. I can only assume. And yeah, you can't really evil Grummz. He's already evil.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/the Serfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Poppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincel, Words Greenwood, with additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.